Hello, welcome to Yesterlore. I am Grimm's lawyer, and I am perfectly on time for once. No technical difficulties this time. And welcome to the bonus stream. This is my second bonus stream. And we're going to be continuing adapting the Northumbrian rune poems today. We did the first poem and started the second poem last time. I haven't had any time to work on this between now and the last time, so we're going to just continue where we left off. I will probably work on this some more independently before the next bonus stream, and then I can catch the stream up on what I've done in the meantime, and we can continue there then next Saturday. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and get started. First, what I'd like to do is put in the chat, let's see, I'm going to drop I'm going to put a link in there. One sec. Should not be happening. Something weird just happened. Okay. What I am putting in, I should not be getting emails right now. At all. Particularly not emails from Twitch, because that's where I am right now. Okay, there we go. I'm putting a link to the North Sea rune poems here in the chat, and like I said last Friday in last week's Yesterlore, highly recommend checking out that book for some rune poems that go with the younger Futhark, the Old Norse runes, with some Old Norse translated poetry, original poetry by northseapoet, and translated into Old Norse by Kevin French. So, and we're kind of doing a similar thing. Northseapoet wrote these poems, and I'm translating them into Old English. And we got a good way into Ur, the second one. And what I was struggling with a little bit last time, I want to see if I could just zoom in the tiniest bit more. If that's good. I'm not sure if that's getting cut off or not. It is getting cut off a bit. So like 115 maybe. Is that better? That's a bit better. Okay, yeah. All right. So we've got kindred of the calf, a great horned beast that once stood and roamed, so fiercely proud upon moors, a savage fighter unrelenting, a stubborn being unchanging, treading the boundaries between, where did I, sorry, my eyes just got completely off the line, between the wild and cultured, and in life refused to bow, and only in death tamed. So, like I said last time, there's a lot pretty much directly taken from the, I don't know what's going on with my screen right now. There we go. From the Old English version of this poem here. Let me zoom in just a bit here too. Let's do it 115 as well. So we've got the Aurochs here, who is proud, overly horned, fierce in the fight, with horns, famous moor stipper, famous moor walker, a proud beast. So, how do we go about adapting this? So far we've got one full alliterative line, that's Calvis nach Mai, and I think this should actually be Mai with an E. I'd actually need to think about whether or not that should be in Northumbrian, because typically long ah it shows up as long A in Northumbrian. However, I don't think that's necessarily universal. I'm just not sure if we know what this is in Northumbrian. I think it might be May. I'm just not sure if we have it attested as such. In any case, I'll worry about Northumbrianizing all of it at the end. But we've got this Calvis nach mij, nat overhurned, the blink, 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 blink. And then we have felle freknon vechte, fierce in the fight instead of a savage fighter, savage in the fight, just so that it could still alliterate better, like it does here. Ooh, actually, I'm just realizing this is more than just a half line here, because I have 3 alliterations that I don't know why I didn't realize that before. Felle frekne on vechte. Hello, North Sea Poet. Welcome, welcome. I'm just trying to piece together this alliterative line here, and then fit something in here that'll work in the meantime. But yes, so the 2 F's here make up a full half line. It's one of those. There's sometimes you have a half line in Old English where it's actually just one word that's a compound. And what the meter does is it says that this is the first half line, and this like secondarily stressed second part of the compound counts. But you can see that that can get completely ignored in a line like this. Wait, actually, have we had any compound lines? Oh, we haven't. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like up here, where nachmai, in theory, these could be 2 stresses. But in practice, usually they're not, because it's like, it's just a word. It's just an N. And it's a secondary stress. But sometimes you can use the secondary stress as your primary stress if you need it for the alliteration, like we did up here with ran rada. So it's like ran rada in terms of what the stresses are, but it's one word with a primary and secondary stress. It's a little bit like cheating that you see a lot of in alliterative verse. So you see it so often that it probably isn't even cheating. It's just that is accommodated by the rules of Old English alliterative verse. Okay. So, I'm trying to see something here. Because if this is a full half line, this word, then this second half line needs to be, it needs one more stress. Stood and roamed so fiercely upon the moors. Yeah, I think I'll come back to this part. We should fit this in because I'm getting stuck over here. Once stood and roamed. So fiercely proud upon moors. I missed all that because Twitch and mobile data decided to be sad so much for 5G being better. Oh no. I'll catch it all in the VOD. Yeah, no, I was just saying, I'm going to go back a little bit to up here because I'm getting stuck over here. Trying to figure out how I'm going to put in Rome here. Because the best verb I'm thinking of for roam, or just like wander around, is huarvan. But I'm not sure. Do I need it to alliterate? That can be an unalliterated part of my line. I can figure that out. In which case, once stood, and stood, that would just be stowed, and roamed. So fiercely proud upon the moors. So, if my verbs are stod and huar, for the past of huarvan, then I either need H or ST to be my alliteration in the second half. In the so fiercely proud upon moors part. So I need to figure out what I'm going to use for fierce. Because my first word that comes to mind is just frekna, which I'm using in the next line. But I need a different word. I had the buzzword taller for some synonyms here. Grim, but grim doesn't alliterate. Reu alliterates with huarv, so that could work. Yeah, I could just use reu. The thing is, reu is ambiguous because it has two sort of different meanings. Context is usually enough, but reu means sadness, but it also means unrelatedly. I think it's from a different root where it means fierce. And I think it's that fierce meaning, which is where we get the word, I think the fierce meaning is related to the word rough. There's also grim. Grim comes to mind, but grim doesn't alliterate with anything anywhere here. The other thing is it's fiercely, right? It's fiercely proud. So proud should be what I'm focusing on, and fiercely I need to get across in some other way, maybe with the way that I say proud. I could just have it be an intensifier an intensified way of saying proud instead of actually translating fiercely. And there are a lot of ways to say proud. The original poem uses modi, and that's because it alliterates with mata, and it alliterates with more stipper, which is what we have here. So what I'm trying to figure out is if there's an H-y way. I know there's like proud is blanc, but then there's like hiya is a word for like your heart, that you can, like your mind or your heart, you could say mod blanc, and similarly you could say hiya blanc, and they both mean proud. And the hiya just kind of tells you that it's like where pride is. It's in your mind or your heart. Would with pride stood upon the moors work better in translation? If I move stood, maybe I just went with fiercely proud because I was just study the runes. Yeah. No, I think what I can do is I can say, for the second half line, which, how many spaces am I doing? I'm doing 5. Yeah, I'm going to do roamed and stood, fiercely proud, which would be hyeolang. On more. Yeah. And then that's going to alliterate with huarv up here. Ooh, actually, a fun way to no, because that makes it like this ST alliteration. I don't want that. Never mind. I was going to do something tricky, but I'm not going to. I'm going to do Anna, or I'll just do Anna. Anna stod and huarv. Fe Anna stod and huarv. Hyeolang on mora. Felle frekne on feuchte. I hope you don't mind. Can I sort of wrap in unrelenting and stubborn together so that this doesn't have to be its own line like we had to do up here? I don't know, maybe it's going to be fine. Stubborn being, because yeah, okay. Because what I'm getting is, in the original poem we have on mode. It's a way of saying like fierce or proud. But what I'm thinking of for down here is anhudi for stubborn. Anhudi, which relates to the hyeolang here. Anhudi. And I'm thinking that this can be the end of this line actually too. It means like stubborn, steadfast kind of thing. Of one mind is really where it comes from. Pretty much always shows up without a G. I think etymologically it should have a G, but I don't think I've ever seen it with a G. Anhudi. Because then what I can do is just put this onto the next one. Felle frekna. I can even space it if I wanted to. Felle frekna on feuchte anhudi. Unchanging, treading the boundaries. So there is unchanging missing here. Although one meaning of unhudi is constant as well, so it's like stubborn, constant, unchanging, unrelenting, all sort of wrapped up in this word. If that's all right, that way we could just proceed to the next line. I might actually get like the 5 lines I was expecting in this stanza, whereas this one had, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one had 6 lines. Because this one ended up being its own, and this one had to be on its own as a result. So, let's see. This might actually be even. Treading the boundaries between the wild and cultured. Okay. Is this a play on words? If you're here, northseapoet, is this a play on words with the word mata here? Because it could function as such. So, in the Old English mata morstapa, the famous moorstepper, is there. But also, mata as a noun means border, like boundary. So there's 2 different translations there. I think Drekisdottir's site talks about this, but yeah, there's the 2 possible readings here of like mata meaning famous moorstepper, but also like boundary moorstepper. There. So, yeah, okay, I'm going to do this. See, what I'm struggling with right now, I should vocalize my thoughts, shouldn't I? To make this less boring, is wild and cultured is tough to translate. I also imagine nature's sword is going to be tough to translate too, because like I think it's difficult to express this sort of notion of like a completely separate wild versus not in like the cultural context of Old English. Makes it really hard to do. I think the closest I can get, and I think it's going to work okay, is like tamed versus untamed, and I think that can work. My struggle with that though is alliteration. Yeah, I know it's your own Kenny, but the concept of nature, capital N, is like sort of a very post-romanticism notion. So it's like I'm gonna tweak it a bit, and I hope that's okay to do. The thing is, like, most of the words I can use for like tame or untame do start with T, as we get the word tame from Old English, and that's the main way to talk about this. If I don't want to give like a extremely negative connotation to it, I could use theon, or I guess it would be like for theon in this context, or theon maybe. Or lissan also has like a subdued, oppressed idea. Sort of nature. No, the problem isn't the order, it's nature. Like, the concept of nature as we conceive of it now is not, it's not a thing in Old English. It's just the world. Wild, there is wild and, like, of behavior. I wasn't expecting to be translated word for word because different languages mean. Yeah, no, I know. Yeah. So I think my struggle here is the best words I can think of these things are wild, so it would be like well, I do need this to be a noun, don't I, between wild and tame. Yeah. I'll think of something like that, maybe, is what I was thinking for this, or like the Earth's Sword or something. For Thorn. I like Sword of the Elves, that's a good one. Like land spirits, yeah. But up here, my struggle is nothing here alliterates that I can think of. So I might have to move things around, maybe, and make it work. Yeah, it's a verb. Okay. I could use a different verb for I wanted to use stepan because it evokes the Old English rune poem, like the morstapa part, but I might just use tread, like what you used, tread, here, because that alliterates with tam, which is tame, or temian. It kind of means more like trample, though, when you use tredan in Old English, but that's fine because they're heavy, and okay, I want to not do this because this is not West Saxon. It's going to be tredeth. There we go. It's more Northumbrian way of saying it. On madum, this is probably merum, actually, now that I think about it. Yeah, merum tredeth. The a to a in Northumbrian. Okay. On merum tredeth tweux. Wilderness. So the tame part actually needs to come first. Because it needs to literate T. The tame and the wild. I could just make them strong adjectives to nominalize them, probably in this case. Yeah. Betwixt Taman would be the dative there. And Wilda would, I think just Wilda. It isn't I stem, but I don't think that matters here. pretty sure it would just be wilden as well. Betwixt tamman. Ja, on merum trädet betwixt tamman and wilden. And in life refused to bow. And in life refused to bow. Only in death tamed. I might change the order of these last two lines a bit, or like scramble it a bit. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is change the syntax here a bit too. Anathemeth. Actually, that should be Temath, shouldn't it? Temath. Hina. Dath. Because, or after, Sithon, yeah, Sithon, I need a word for life that starts either with D or T. I know a lot of words for life, but none of them start with either. Unless I get a different word for, I can't think of a better word for Timian. And I think this Temian is nice after Taman in the prior line. That's why I could sort of switch the order here. I might use a poetic extension of die for life here, which we do kind of use in English to an extent when we say like back in their day, or in so and so's day. It's like the days of their life. So I can say like in Sifan on his Daum. His Daum. Sorry, it's not long. Daum. Ne. Probably both. I'm pretty sure it's beef in West Saxon, but I think it's going to just be both in Northumbrian because of the no secondary. This should be long. I don't know why Thorn didn't come out here. The secondary affection happening in the present tense. Yeah, both. Okay. And this one came out perfectly even, so it's 5 alliterative lines for the 10 free verse lines. So, das Calvis nach mig natt överhörnet, för Anne stod and where hjulang och mora. Fälla fräkna och fäkta anhudi, och merum trädet betwelks tamman och wildan. Anna temath hina dath, sit on his daum nebueth. I actually don't think this is allowed, having this as the stress, just because of the phonotactics of it. But I can't think of a better solution. So let me translate this a little bit more woodenly so we can hear sort of the difference from the modern English. So the calf's near kinsman, or the calf's near family member, a greatly horned creature, beast, that once stood and roamed, so that's pretty close, proudly, like soul proudly, on the moors, or on the moor. I made it singular. I could make it plural if we want. It could just be morum, yeah. Savagely fierce in the fight, of one unchanging mind. So that kind of gets the unrelenting, stubborn, and unchanging all in one. On the boundaries treading, or it treads, between the tame and wild. Only death tames him, since in his days he does not bow. Okay. My only issue is this is going to eat away at me, the fact that this is not metrically sound, but that's okay. There's some unmetrically sound lines in Beowulf even, so that's fine. Make a little exception there. Okay, Thorn! Yay! Thorn time. Okay, here we go. Nature's Sword. We're already in it. Free verse alliterating Old English. Let's go. Oh. Yeah, it's almost, it's not free verse. It's still very much fitting the strictures of Old English alliterative verse. It's just breaking the rules here a little bit. but even Beowulf does that. So if the Beowulf poet can do it, I can do it. Ing's sword. Oh, that's one way to conceive of the that's one way to conceive of thorns. I never thought of that. Wow. Wildland sword. Okay, I'm going to actually come back to this line because I think there are too many options. But I have a suspicion that this line is going to be its own verse. Because, I mean, we could squeeze it into a half, but it could determine what we do up here. Because I was thinking of things to alliterate. Now, hawthorn does exist in Old English, hawthorn. So that tells me that maybe H is a good idea for this line. And then I need a word that alliterates with H for rose. And there is a word. So, like, we have rose hip in modern English. And I'm not actually sure if it's etymologically related to, like, hips, like, that we have as humans. Because there is an Old English word, helpa, which I think is the origin of hip. But you can also call a rose, the whole thing, like the briar, the rose bush, you can call it helpbremmel. And bremmel is like the bramble part of rose. Bremmel is bramble, which fits with thorn as well. So I was thinking helpbremmel on the hawthorn. And each of those compounds can be their own half line, actually, if we wanted them to be. So we can say, like, on helpbremlum and hawthornum. And that's a whole, that's an entire line on its own with two compounds. And the grows is going to have to get, like, shoved off maybe to the top line. So this would also then have to be an entire alliterative line. If this is an entire alliterative line, we're kind of stuck with this being an entire alliterative line instead of just half like we've been doing here. So whatever nature's sword is and wound flame, because remember we get like 4 big stressy bits in the word, those are each taken up here. Help, breml, hau, thorn. Just because of how we're choosing to break this down. So we're going to need 4 here, and 2 of them, I guess, can be nature's sword. Wound flame can also be 2, but then we don't have a place to put grows. We could shuffle grows down here. Whoa, I keep doing that now. I actually hadn't done that yet this entire time, but it finally happened. Okay. Grows. We'll have to, like, put grows down here. Or we could just find a way to make grows redundant. Nature's sword. I like Ing's sword or Wildland sword or Elf's sword. But if this is its own line, then nothing here will determine what the alliteration is. I'm thinking of how I want to say wound flame, because I think that will determine what I do here. We could use lay again, like we did for flame up here, flame of the wave. We could do bal. We could do blast. We can do just feed. We could do... yeah. We could do glade even, like an ember. So, you know what? Maybe let's pick our word for sword. I think that would be a cool place to start. So we could do sword, or we could do bill, or we could do blad, or we could do meche. I kind of like bill because it gives us a B, and then we could use like blast or bal for flame over here. And that would be B alliteration, and then we're free to choose whatever the heck we want for ing or elf or whatever. Alternatively, I'm trying to think how we're going to say the wound part of wound flame, because if we do a compound with flame, it's actually wound that's going to come first, and so that's going to be that's going to be what determines the alliteration. Wound is just wound. A sword wound, there's a word for sword wound. Another word for wound is dolch. Dolch, D-O-L-H or D-O-L-G, depending. And then there's some very poetic things like how to drink, like kenning, the sword strength. Oh yeah, we could do how here. I didn't think about that. I like dolch, but if we use dolch, then we need a D over here. Ooh. One thing we could do is we could use bite instead of wound, because that'll alliterate, like bitter or bitterlay or something like that. Sounds good to me. Yeah, sounds good to me too. Beta. Alright, because then the alliterations can be on B. Beta. And it puts it into a small compound, betale, like bite flame. Because then we can have grow. Then we could still fit grow into this line. Grow with. That's what I'm thinking it's going to be in Northumbrian. It's growth in West Saxon because of the I affixation, the umlaut, but that doesn't happen in Northumbrian, so just groweth. So some things will be tale groweth. So we have the freedom. We can do Inges Bill. I kind of like Alva Bill. Alva Bill Beetle groweth. Or I think the north is more like Elva or something. I think it's an E that shows up for the more northern text for this word. In West Saxon it should be Elva. And by late West Saxon this looks like Ylva, and that's what we see actually is Ylva. But in the singular, even though it should be Elf, that's what the West Saxon is, and that's what I typically use. They borrowed the Mercian Alf most of the time for elf. But then there's, I think, at least in, there's at least one poem I've seen where it was written with an E, and I think that was one that had northern influence, or like was originally northern and then retranscribed. I'm going to double check that later though, where it's E. It might not be Northumbria that it's E, but for now I'm going to put it there. Because I like Elva Bill. Elves, the blade of the elves. A bite flame grows on the hip briars, the hip brambles, and hawthorns. That's great. I'm loving this so far. We have 2 full lines, though, already, instead of 2 half lines. This is going to be a longer one, maybe. The rain of eyes it calls forth. It's a nice kenning for tears there. Rain of eyes. I mean, I think this could just be a compound again. That would be or it could be a whole half line. Are you gonna rain? Ayana rain. Yeah, ayana rain. It calls forth. I'm trying to weigh if I want this to be a whole line on its own again, or if it's going to be the next one, because Raven Wine might take up its own whole thing as well. But I could make Rain and Raven alliterate if I play my cards right. I could do Cheyenne. I think it would be Cheyenne, actually, in the north. Because then this can still just be Chayeth Ayana Rain. So that this is just the verb that I'm not going to stress. It's just going to vibe. So my stress is here, Ayana and Rain. And then I have an R that's being stressed. Cheyan here means to invoke or summon. So it summons, it calls forth. But it could also mean to cry out, like to yell in pain, which also fits thematically. Raven Wine is the best kenning. I'm very happy with Raven Wine. I like this kenning a lot when it comes up. But if I have rain, I can't alliterate rain with Raven Wine. I'm a fool. I'm reading this in modern English, and that's the problem. I'm so used to composing in Old English. I go the other way. I'm like, ooh, R's. I don't have R's. Raven starts with an H. So I need to rethink this. Okay, here's what I'm going to do now. I'm actually not going to make the alliteration on R. And I'm going to make this a compound. Ayeren. Ayeren. Irene. Yeah, it's haven in Old English. H-R ash F-N usually. It's haven in Old Norse with just an A, yeah. So Irene, and I'm going to use a different verb. H-R ash F-N. Haven. The F is pronounced like a V. Hence the V in modern English. And I don't remember ever seeing Raven Wine in Old English as a compound. It's definitely in Old Norse. I might need to check that though. It might be attested. I just might not have encountered it. I know Ravenswart. Yeah, it's Old Norse for sure. Ravenswart comes up. That just means raven black, which we still use sometimes. We just use the word raven as a word for black. So this is for Old English kennings. There aren't a lot of good ones, actually. I haven't found any good ones either. Sometimes kennings are preserved as vocabulary words, like as a compound in dictionaries, but yeah. Some of the poems focus on Norse topics anyway. Yeah, it's true. Ayrein. So what I'm doing here, instead of using Cheyan, I'm using Hatan, because that has an H, like Haven does. And I think it's just going to be Hatet here, because it's actually the active verb Hatan, not the passive one that we use to say people's names. Honest, I think would be hat in West Saxon again, but we're not doing the umlaut here. Ayrein hateth, it calls or commands, which doesn't actually work very well. I might need to use a different verb, actually. Because you can use it for command, but it's more about the speech act of commanding or ordering. I might need to put like a prefix on this. I so like that kennings can be an entire word that like more of the way of a fishing line. Yeah, I think I'm going to need a prefix on hatan to make it actually mean what I want it to mean. Because I want it to be, it's summoning it forth rather than just saying its name, like calling for it. It orders it. I think hatan can be used that way by itself, but I want it to be a little clearer what is meant here. So maybe like, I don't know if that's attested at all. Forhatan. I don't think there's Forhatan or something like that, but Ahatan, is that a thing? Yeah, Ahatan means to name someone, doesn't it? Forhatan means to say against something, to speak against it. And all the other intensified ones like Yehatan or Behatan are about making promises. So I think Hatan is as good as I'm going to get. It summons, it calls out the name of Ayrein. As raven wine, it sups upon from the hard war tokens. From the hard war token. So what I did here is I did Ayrein, it calls as it eats or like feasts upon raven wine. And these don't count for the alliteration here. They're just sort of ignorable syllables. Swaswahit ravenwin fretet. So far we got elva bill bitalei groweth on hel bremlum on haguthornum ayerain hateth swaswahit ravenwin freteth. From the hard war tokens that it tears up into the hands of those without cautious grasp and with piercing might the sword blades. Oh, whoops. The sword blades, it's an apostrophe A here instead of apostrophe S. Sword blades path it inflicts upon those who dare sit upon it. Hard war tokens that it tears into the hands. The tokens here are just like the wounds, I'm guessing. Like it's like a token as in it's a proof that someone has been harmed. Is the from here... I'm trying to figure out how the from is related to the prior lines, if at all. Is the raven wine from the hard war tokens? That's how I'm reading it. Because I'm trying to figure out the grammar that I'm going to have to put into this line. So the reign of Isaac calls forth as raven wine and sups upon from the hard war token. So the wine comes from the wound. That would make sense to me. Yeah, so that just tells me that it's going to need to be getting that idea across the from here. What I'm thinking is I'm going to do H alliteration with hands and hard. And war tokens, I'm going to call them harm bech, I think. Which isn't quite war. Harm is just where we get the word harm from. But in this context with bech, I think it's going to get it across. Because I'm going to do like... wow, apparently my last message was in conflict with your moderation settings. What did you say? I mean, you can't tell me, but because that means it's in violation of my moderation settings, but I don't know what you said, but basically the wounds are the source. Yeah, I get that. I think I saw that, yeah. The hard war token is wounds. The raven wine pours from the hard war tokens. Oh, if it was like a description of anything gory, then yeah, that's why it got cut out, yeah. That is my settings, yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that in my settings now. Yeah, that's intentional. So no, don't. It's okay. You don't need to try to write it. Yeah, I know. I know it's that word. It's intentional. Swaswa hit ravenwin freteth. Oh no. Yeah, no, it is that word. I have intentionally blocked that word for my own health. Thank you. Hard war tokens. From the hard war tokens, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I entirely lost my harm becht. A bech is like this, a sign or proof of something. And then harm is the cause of the proof that you're proving. Okay, I'm looking for synonyms in Bosworth-Taller, and instead Bosworth-Taller is doing its really annoying glitch where it will load results, but then it will, without any touching of anything, reload and just give me the entire dictionary A to Z. It has this problem that it does on any browser I've ever used, doesn't matter which one. I don't know why it does this. But yeah, I'm making up this compound. It's not a tested Hambech. And it's feminine. Bech is feminine. It's from, I think it's from Bacon. Not actually sure where the root of Bech is, but it's feminine. Because then I'm gonna hardre, I think is what I'd have to put there, hardre, because it's feminine, and I believe that this is dative with of. So of hardre harmbechte. I just realized something. I think in the North I should be using in instead of on. I think in is more common in the North. So I'm going to go back and do that. Add those in. I'll need to check this later, but I'm pretty sure it's in that's more common in the North and East, and on that's more West Saxony. Alright, in... Handum. Oh, that it tears, so that, Thatathe. Yeah, I'm actually not sure if it would be theta. Because by all rights it should be theta, but I don't think I've ever seen it written that way. But also, I haven't seen a lot of Northumbrian texts. See, in West Saxon, this is theta. Theta. Theta thein hundum. I could just do the and not even worry about this. Yeah, I'm just not going to worry about it. Just feels more complete for me to have that there. Thein handum hit. What do I want to use for tear? Do I just want to use tear? That's fine. We keep them locked away in case Southerners try to steal our secrets. You haven't seen a lot of Northumbrian text because we keep them locked away in case the Southerners try to steal our secrets. I can believe that. I can believe that. Yeah, it was just like, Wessex was sort of a center for literary, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word I'm trying to say. But in any case, most of our texts come from Wessex. There definitely were monasteries and such where people wrote in Northumbria, but most of Northumbria was not writing a lot of stuff. volume-wise in comparison to Wessex. Yeah, I think I'm just going to use Tehran just to stay close to what's here. And I think this one is going to have affection regardless, but I'm going to not do the smushing that happens. In West Saxon, it would be this, but I think in the North, it would just be this. But I think it would still umlaut, because I think this is like an umlaut that goes back to Proto-Germanic, not Old English. The in handum het teres, that in two hands it tears. Oh wait, it's in two hands. Oh, that's a different story. It's not in hands or on hands. That's how I was parsing it, but it's in two hands. Yeah, one of the monasteries would have been in Whitby, and I think Lindisfarne had. Yeah, they did have one in Lindisfarne as well. Yeah, there would have been some writing centers there. So this is going to need to be accusative if it's into, so it's going to be handa instead, because it's a U stem. In handa hitireth, of those without cautious grasp. So the hands of those without conscious grasp. Okay. Into the hands of those without conscious grasp. Those, tharathe, ne, you know what I might do? I might try to word this a little bit differently. Say those whose Farathe. So the word is that we're revoking here is anfang, the grasping of it. Those without cautious grasp. Farathe, of those whose, I want to say of those whose grasp is uncautious. But the grammar here is weird because we're already like in a relative clause within a relative clause. So trying to squeeze another relative clause is tricky already. Of those who, I could say of those who are unaware in their grasp. Tharathe un warlich. Or uncautiously grasp. That would be so the verb would be unfon there. I think it might be unfon in the North, but I'm not sure about that. I think it might just still be unfon. Fourth. Unwarliche on fourth. So my alliterations can now be on F or W here. And with piercing might. That's interesting. Piercing might. And with piercing might the sword's blade's path it inflicts. Okay, so this is kind of like a new sentence here. The subject here is the sword's blade. No, the subject here is it. It inflicts the sword's blade's path with piercing might upon those who dare sit upon it. So I might reword it because it inflicts the sword's path, but I'm going to say it pierces mightily, maybe. and then maybe I can get a verb for pierce that alliterates with either W or F. The only verb I can think of for pierce is stingan, which alliterates with neither, so that's a problem. Oh, yeah, okay, you can use torhuadan for penetrate or pass through or pierce. I'm not sure if the thor will get primary stress here. I would personally secondarily stress it. Wiktionary seems to agree with me on that. But I need to see if it has any examples in poetry to see what it alliterates with. If it does. Because if it alliterates with thorn, then I'm in trouble. But if it alliterates with W, then I'm solid. Good. Well, they're using it in the non-alliterating part a lot. Okay. Maybe because it's hard to alliterate with things. Wait, no, it alliterates here. That's... Oh, yeah. This is from, Death of Bergnath. Yeah. That sword thor wod worm. That hit on wala. Yeah, it has W alliteration. Okay. I was pretty sure that was okay to do, but I wasn't 100%. So I'm glad to have that confirmed. I'm pretty sure I've seen that part of Malden before. So what I'm going to say is, instead of with piercing might, it inflicts the sword's path, I'm going to say it pierces mightily and inflicts. I keep doing this. Why do I keep doing this? Okay. And Thorwad. Okay. Thorwadeth. This feels so wrong to write. In West Saxon, this is Thorwat, because of two different sound changes that happen there. But I think it would just still be Wadeth in Northumbrian. I'm going to say Mayan had. I know this is a very thick second half line, but it might tardily pierces through. And inflicts the sword blade's path. I'm going to put a punctuation here. Have I used any punctuation in this entire poem so far? I have not. I'm trying to respect the lack of punctuation that's in the original to a large extent, keeping it ambiguous, and I like that. So yeah, I'm just gonna not put a punctuation there. Yeah, and the sword blade's path it inflicts upon those who dare to sit upon it. I think I'm a little confused on what I should try to get across here with sword blade's path. What is meant here? Sword blade's path. Because when this kind of kenning is used in Old English, it usually talks about a region, like a place. But it inflicts a place onto those who dare sit upon it. Yeah, no. I think I get that from the whole thing, this whole part, but it's just the choice of, if this is a kenning, I'm not solving it, I think, correctly. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm understanding that it's essentially it's wounding them, but I'm not getting the kenning here. I'm not sure how to preserve it. Sword's blade path is supposed to be wounds or a trail of wounds. Okay. It inflicts a trail of wounds upon those who are staying on it. Okay. Yeah, my confusion isn't coming from you, it's coming from how this type of kenning tends to be used in Old English, which is usually about a region. Like the swan's path or the fish's path is usually just a way to say the ocean, for example. Or the wanderer's path is just like the wasteland. So I wasn't sure what sword blade's path was meant to be, what, like if that's a region of the body that it's talking about or something like that. But it being the wounds or the trail of wounds, I can work with that because then I'm trying to find a good Old English equivalent for this kenning because I want to preserve it. But I want to preserve it correctly. Sorry, my dog is scratching at the ground. I have him in here with me because someone is moving next door and he barks whenever he hears boxes move. So I have him hanging out with me in here. Found where it got it from. Oh, by path. That's cognate with yat in Old English. It's gate. It's like an entrance. So that's path as in way in, yeah, rather than path as in like a road. That makes a lot of sense. It's the gate of the edge. That would actually, in Old English, it would be edges yat in Old English, or not edges yat, edge yat, because edge is feminine. The kenning was used in Ragnarsdrapa. Okay. You know, I might just steal it then, and then let that guide my alliteration. We might just steal that kenning and Old English for it. And it needs to be accusative, right? Yat is... I swear yat is neuter, but I want to double check this. It's neuter. Yeah, okay, so yat. And yat, would it be different in the north? Yay, I'm helping. Yeah, no, this is very helpful. I'm glad to know where you got it from, because that makes a lot more sense than how I was, the Old English that I was picturing this coming from. I'm like, that doesn't make much sense. But it's an Old Norse kenning with a different word that does have a cognate that we can just grab. It's great. Actually, I might switch the order in Old English, though, to make it like a compound rather than just a phrase, because I want these last two lines to fit together if I can help it. Thank you for the link to this one. Okay. That's the database I use for kennings. Yeah, I use that. I use the skaldic.org for a lot of stuff. It's great. I should probably put that one in the description of my video. Sorry, I'm getting several errors on a different tab right now. It's really annoying. And edge, I want to just say edge yat, I think, is what I'm going to do. As much as I like the syntax in the Old Norse, the gotu egger doesn't work as well. I had to make a few kennings myself for one or two of the poems, since there's no kennings for those groups of people. Ajat. I might keep it genitive, but still have it in a compound, because that's still allowed in Old English. Ajat. Yeah. And Ajayat, it inflicts upon those who dare sit upon it. I think this is evoking the Himidresteth here. Yeah, no, thank you. For blocking that out. The Himidresteth we might be able to just port, but for those who dare sit upon it, but I need something to alliterate with mid there, the M. And for inflict, I'm thinking mostly roots of L that I'm getting, like Lejan or something like that, or Alan with an E. That alliterates actually with, well, that alliterates with edge, but it doesn't alliterate with mid. I wonder if I can just Selan give. It gives edge gates. It gives sword paths to those who, because if I use Selan, then I can use, instead of Restan, I could use Sitan and switch the order and put mid at the end, or like upon or something. Well, that's a little bit of a, it's poetry. I can get away with using Selan, I think. Yeah, Selan's fine. And then Sitan, maybe Besitan or something. Saleth. Wait. Yeah. To Tham The Him. Maybe on sitteth. No, on sitan is more like pushed down on. I'm just gonna do sitteth. Sitteth. Yes, it is better, actually. Yes, it is. I think mid is still fine. Just like this, just like this translation. I think I'll just say that in. That'll make me feel better. No, I like mid better. I want to evoke the original a little bit. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines again, like we had with the first one. But the whole two are at the beginning. Elva bill bitterlei groweth, on help bremlum on hauthornum. Ægerein hateth swaswahit ravenween freteth. Of herdra hermbechthe, thein handa hit tireth. Tharathe unwarliche on forth, and hit thorwadeth mayen herda. And edgeat selleth, totham thehims yesiteth mid. Okay, so the blade of the elves, the biting flame, grows on the hip brambles, the roses, and the hawthorns. I rain, it calls. Actually, this is grammatically, I think I'm going to say hit here. It calls I rain as it devours raven wine from the hard, like harm tokens that it tears into hands of those who uncautiously grasp it, yeah, and it pierces through mightily, and a sword's path it gives to those who take a seat within it. Okay, I hope that's close enough to what we wanted here. Yeah, so we got 2 poems down this time. Last time we only got 1 and some change, but that was only 1 hour. In 2 hours we finished 2, basically, because there was only a little bit of this one. And we still have 30-ish minutes for 1 more. Starting 1 more. Oh, yeah. Why is S getting swallowed up by the O so bad there? Kerning on this is wild. Not happening with this O. Doesn't matter the font size either. That's weird. Why is it so close? Let me try it next to it. Alright, it's still there, but for some reason O with a macron doesn't do it. O with an accent swallows up the S. What about a regular O? Yeah, same deal. That's so weird. Anyways, I'm using accents consistently in my translation, so I'm just going to use an accent here. I know you used the macron here. It doesn't really make a difference. I can edit these all to be macrons later if you want. I just feel icky using macrons in Old English. I know a lot of Old English scholars do it. A lot of books use it. I think it looks gross. Another 30 to go. I will be working on this some more independently before next week. It's not going to just be in the streams that I work on this, don't worry. I just haven't had time from last week to this week. I just feel icky using macrons in Old English, and I guess I should explain myself a little bit. So Old English doesn't really mark vowel length consistently at all in any manuscript. However, when we do see occasional marks, they are accent, like acute accents, like we see in Irish and we see in some Old Norse manuscripts. Those tend to not write the vowel length consistently either. But the modern languages that they descend from do, and they use accents. They do not use macrons. Macrons are used in like modern texts for Latin, where vowel length is marked. And there are some modern languages that use macrons, like Hawaiian and I think does Latvian use macrons? I can't remember. There are some modern languages that use macrons, and they're fine. I don't hate them. It just feels like a complete weird thing to do for Old English, because when we do see manuscripts that do mark some words for their length, they use accents. So it feels a little bit more authentic, especially given that the surrounding languages in the area, like Irish and Norse, use accents. Why would you use macrons in Old English? Because they want to seem fancy, I guess. Independently, I better put my finger out my book then. Latin text, let's not go. Yeah, no. Even some Latin, like medieval Latin texts and late classical Latin texts, because Latin texts also didn't mark vowel length. Marking vowel length consistently is a completely modern thing in general anyway. There was just occasional vowel marking. I'm talking about in the Roman alphabet, at least. There are other languages that mark vowel length consistently with different writing systems, but when it comes to using a Latin-based script and marking vowel length completely, that's a modern thing. But occasionally Latin did do it, and when they did it even, they used accent marks. When Old English occasionally did it, they used accent marks. When Irish does it, it uses accent marks. When Old Norse does it, it uses accent marks. Modern Icelandic uses accent marks. So why did 19th century scholars love macrons so much? I don't know. I don't know why they loved macrons so much, but we're stuck with them now. So many dictionaries use macrons. If you use Bosworth-Toller Old English Dictionary, when you're actually doing the view, you have the option whenever you're looking through it. By default, they use accents, which is based, in my opinion. But you have the option to turn off any vowel marking, which is a little bit more authentic to what most manuscripts look like. Or you can turn on macrons if you're one of those weirdos. So, yeah, I am calling you weird if you use macrons in Old English. Don't take it personally. I just think it's a weird, unfounded choice based in, like, 19th century scholarship and not actually based on anything. At the end of the day, it's just an aesthetic choice. It doesn't really matter that much. So, anyway, I'm going to proceed. The smithy of spells are seat of poetry and words, from where language comes flowing into the common seat of men, as though a tempest-blown wave on the ridge. In here, the holy cup of the raven god, crafted like the finest of armed fires, for bard and poet alike, and for friends and lover alike, to wield like the knight with sword. Okay. So, I like this one a lot. I'm seeing imagery from, like, all of the rune poems here. Because there's the Old English one that's a lot more like words and stuff. And then there's the Old Icelandic one, which very, very clearly references Odin in that one. And then there's also the Old Norwegian one where it's talking about an estuary. And I feel like all of that imagery is getting wound up here, and I like it. It's like a copy-paste the text. Yeah, no, I'm not blaming anyone in this scenario. If there's anyone I am criticizing, it is 19th century scholars who liked macrons a lot. I'm not blaming any individual today. I don't know if knights were a thing in Saxon culture. Depends on what you mean by knight. If we're talking about knights in plate armor, no, that didn't exist yet. But if we're talking about, like, a lot of the time, there are Old English words that get translated with knight. Usually it's like thane, bairn, atheling, Earl. Those often get translated as knight. Yeah, I may have took inspiration from all of them. I can see elements of all three in there, which is cool. But yeah, I don't know if knights were a thing in Saxon culture. They depends on what you mean by knight. Yeah, like because the word knight gets used to talk about them a lot, but it's not the sort of courtly image that we tend to have with knight, like the later medieval conception. So bleep the 19th century scholars. I mean, we owe them a lot of what we have, obviously, and a lot of the thought that's come out of them is what we have now. But at the same time, there are problems that come from 19th century scholarship. I'm thinking knight as in special soldier in service of a lord. Then yes, there were. Usually people use the word thane nowadays to talk about them, but some poetic uses of knight show up in translations of poetry and stuff. But yeah, like as part of the comitatus group around a lord, or having fealty with a lord, there were people, and I guess you can call them knights. Then yeah, knight with a sword. In Old English, I would probably render this with eor or thane or something like that, depending on the alliteration here. Beorn, maybe. Probably Beorn, actually, depending. I don't want to look too far ahead. So the smithy of spells. Now, the problem is the cool thing about modern English is that smithy, spells, and seat all alliterate, but in Old English, none of these three alliterate with each other. Actually, smithy and seat alliterate with each other, but spells do not, because SP, ST, and SC/K sound are their own units alliteration-wise. Like SP only alliterates with SP, ST with ST, and SC with SC. But anything else alliterates, so SL, SM, S vowel. Those are all fine. So, smithy of spells. So I could do spell. Where does the word knight even come from? Okay, well, knight is like what do you call it? What's the word? It's a type of semantic shift that I'm forgetting the name of. A narrowing. And also, I guess, an amelioration. I don't know. It's better. Amelioration is when a word's connotations get better. I don't know if it's better, but it's like higher in rank, I guess. Knicht exists in Old English. CNIHT or CNEOHT, depends on the dialect and stuff. But Knicht does exist in Old English, but it just means usually just boy, like young boy, but also contextually can mean like a servant, like a manservant. And over time, it sort of got specialized to like a squire, and then who does the squire serve? And eventually it becomes the word knecht in later Middle English, ends up having the meaning of like a baron, which some people think is related to the word beorn, which I'm probably going to use down here. So the idea is like, I think the semantic shift comes about from the like sort of social ladder that is involved with the word. So knecht meant boy, and it could also mean manservant, who tended to be younger men. So you have a knecht, but then as a squire, he can then become a knight, like later in the Middle Ages. There's like that sort of system. And so he was a knecht, and now he's what we would call a knight. So then the word knight kind of like followed the actual people up the ladder, like in its meaning, which is kind of interesting. Sort of like in 500 years, or I guess more like 1,000 years, the word intern becomes the word for manager or something like that. If that were to happen, that's sort of the kind of thing that happened. The word for intern became the word for manager because the interns would then become managers, and then over time eventually. But I think I don't speak German, but I think Knecht is still German for like a male, like serving worker type deal. I think Knecht still has that older meaning in modern German, but I don't speak German. So if anyone speaks German, correct me. But I think Knecht still has that meaning of servant, which Knecht had in Old English. But the basic meaning was boy. That was a huge tangent. Sorry. Smithy of spells. So I was saying smithy and seat can alliterate, and then I could just like have spells be ignored by the alliteration, which it will be. So that's if I use the cognate for smithy in Old English, which I might not do. No, I use smithy. Smith. So no. So Smith. Oh yeah, and I'm not even going to use the word spell for spells, right? Because spell in Old English is just about talking. I'm going to use like Yaldor or something like that. Or it would be Galdor, I think, in the north, probably instead. Galdra. Yeah, Galdra. It would be Yaldra in West Saxon. So Smitha Galdra. Smithy of incantations. Seat of poetry and words. I'm going to use set because the other word for like seat of, I think of stol, but that's st. So I'm just going to use set. Or maybe setl. T. L. Because I like how that word sounds. It's mostly used in poetry, but it's nice. Setl. Setl. Oh, in the north, I think we're going to actually see more unsed than we are ure. Or uzed. I think. I might be mistaken. I might be getting this backwards. No, I'm not getting this backwards. Uzed is very Northumbrian. Okay, for hour. Of poetry and words. I'm going to say poetry words, if that's okay, just to make it fit. Oh no, but that's going to alliterate, isn't it? Yedward, just ignore it. The alliteration's on S because I said so. I could make it alliterate. I could say yed, or I guess it would be yid. Yedwarda. Setl. Uzar yidwarda setl. Yeah, so Smitha Galdra uzar yidwarda setl. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. From where language comes flowing. Ooh, I gotta look at the Norwegian rune poem real quick because I want to use some of that language if that's there. Plastra färda far. Skapar swarder. Skapar swarda. Okay. What does the Icelandic one say again? Oh yeah. Ser flestra färda far. Okay. From where? Language comes flowing into the common seat of men. Don't mind me, I'm just looking at some Old Norse compounds real quick. See if I can find some cognates in English that I can use. Of course that one's doesn't have a page. Is there a cognate? And if so, does it mean the same thing? No, not even close. Okay, yeah. Just because something has a cognate does not mean it means the same thing, everyone. Okay, yeah, no. Totally not even close to the same meaning. Awesome. So, I'm going to say... I'm just going to use flow on. Okay. There isn't an exact cognate. There's a close cognate. It's not exactly the same. It has a different prefix that I think is actually just its own thing. Utfar, maybe. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and there is a kind of utfor. Okay, that's what I was looking for, utfor. But I couldn't find a page on it. Okay, so... Theodes... Wait, no, Theoda is feminine. I think it's just Theod. Oh, but is it... strong or weak? I can't remember if it's a strong or weak noun. I think it's a strong noun. In which case it would just be Theoda. And it's... But it's neuter. So it's... Yeah, Theodes utfaru. Theodes utfaru. What this literally means is the going forth of language. I'm trying to evoke what's here, because it says the estuary is the greatest, going out, the greatest journey out. Far is the cognative faru here, and I knew that faru has a similar meaning in Old English, but I need just the right version of this word. Utfar is a good one. Utfar. Of journeys. It's the greatest going out of journeys because it's the estuary. It's the main place where water goes out. And this is the place where language comes out. So, Theodes utfaru, the going out. And it also keeps it active, it's the act of speaking where language comes out. That's why I'm using that there. Theodes utfaru. Into the common seat of man. So I could just say to, because it's the going out to the common seat of men. And here, I'm tempted to use a formula here, but I'll be losing the seat part. But that's fine. I'll just keep with the seat then. The seat of men. Dosetla. Wait, no, I can't do that. I need a thorn or a F. So I'll do the men first. Theuda. Or I could do Theuda. That connects language with people because they're from the same root here. Theuda. Setla. Or I could do with F. Actually, I need to check if the stress is going to be on the F. I would stress it on the F, but I think it's also very possible to stress it on the U. That would be correct. Actually, I think it might be more correct to stress it on the U. Yeah, I think it's stressed on the U. So I need a vowel or a thorn here. Desetla. Yeah. Il desetla. The seat of. This is a generic word for men, but I think etymologically it's more like generation, like of the generations, of the people of that generation. So yeah, of that age. So the common seat of men, and this kind of gets the common part across too. And so the common seat of men. So eal desetla. Oh, this is a very West Saxon way to spell it. There we go. El desetla. As though a tempest blown on the ridge. A tempest blown wave on the ridge. In here, the holy cup of the raven god, crafted from the finest of armfires. These are some thick lines that might take up a whole half line instead of just a half. Oh, one thing I wanted to do, just to keep things consistent so we can see where the half lines are, and it might get it like off track with the English, but I would be more comfortable just reflecting that with, just so we can see how this is panning out. Here. Yeah, so this one goes like basically a line extra here, and then this one is pretty much equal, like even, and then this one is going like this. And so we have again an extra full line than we should. I just want to keep that lined up a little bit. It actually means it makes it less lined up on the actual page, but it's more lined up in terms of like line equivalency, because each of these two is one alliterative line, and most of these full. Whoops, I don't know how that happened. It lagged so bad it made me drag something over. Okay. Most of these full lines of free verse are translating to a half line. And so I want to keep that consistent with how I present it, and just sometimes they translate to two half lines, and that's what's happening there. Okay. El desetla. Okay. Now, but this one might translate into two half lines, is what I'm thinking. A tempest-blown wave on the ridge. Okay, we'll come back to this next time. Actually, I will probably try to finish this poem and maybe the next one before next time, and then I'll like talk through what I did, which might be a little bit more entertaining than watching me sit here and puzzle for a few minutes for each thing. But yeah, I'll try to get some more of this done for next week, and same time next week, noon to 2 Pacific, we will be doing more of this. So that is the plan. Thank you everyone for joining, and anyone who's watching this in the future. If you have ideas, if you have little suggestions like, oh, you should try this, please don't hesitate to put those into YouTube. If you're watching this way in the future, we might have already finished and it might be too late, but I'm still interested to see how people will adapt things. So yeah, thank you everyone. Have a great rest of your time zone, and farewell.